But what you did get to deal with this weekend was me on a night on the town.
Yep.
The lovely town of the casino.
Yep. It's got downhill, Joe.
So we mentioned it last week, and we were taken up by exactly no people.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody apparently found something better to do.
And this is my hierarchy. Like, for the people on the soon-to-be-named network who didn't show up for the meetup, DeWicki gets a free pass.
Right. He lives in a different time zone.
Yeah, he's in a different time zone. Adam, I think, had 3-hour COVID, so he's okay in my book.
I have lawn-related COVID, maybe. I don't know.
So I'm like, okay. He was like, oh, I just got that rare 3-hour COVID. What hours are you going? Those are the ones that I got it for.
Gotcha.
So I'm like, okay. So Marcus and Tim, they're kind of far away too, but they're on probation with me because they come up for wrestling up on the soon-to-be-named Network North compound. And I figured that they would come up this way to get some culture in their life finally.
Can I twist the knife a little bit to maybe change that probation?
Okay.
Did you know when they come up to DJ's soon-to-be-named Network North to watch the pay-per-views, they come up early?
Oh, my God.
But they don't come up early to go to DJ's house. You know where they go to come up early?
The casino?
They go to the casino.
Oh, my God. All right. They're on double secret probation, Joe. Double secret. Only I know what that is, and off mic, I'll tell you what that means.
All right. $100 tier, you could find out.
Right. So that leaves Brett and DJ, who I saw Brett today, and I was nice to him. But he won't know that this is coming. They're super on blast because, like I said, at first I thought DJ was with Brett off seeing Balloon Knot, his favorite band. But
they played their whole first album, Todd.
Oh, that's great. Wid played his whole first set, man.
Wid's been playing the same set for the last 20 years.
That's right. It's all hits, baby. So I'm like, okay, but I found out Brett wasn't with DJ, or DJ wasn't with Brett. He was home because they didn't have a dog sitter, and the dog, gets anxious when they're not away, which I understand. I'm a dog lover, blah, blah, blah. But I still think he could have hired somebody at great expense to watch the dog and come out with me. And then Brett could have given up his concert ticket. So they're on like quadruple secret probation.
Oh, goodness.
Listen, I take Wid very seriously. So.
Yeah. And so I had a good time. I enjoyed going out to enjoying your favorite comedian with you.
That's right. You enjoyed me enjoying Wid?
Yes. Mm-hmm. I didn't purposely go and look up because I know him and the middle guy. So if you've never been to like one of these shows like this, and this is a comedy club in the same way that you could put up a banner in a conference room and any room could become a comedy club. Yeah,
this was less of a club, more of a closet. It was a comedy closet, Joe.
Yeah. But I get it. Listen, it's as and I'm not going to get into too much wrestling talk, no matter how much you ask.
Right.
If you're only going to draw 30 people, it looks better that you put them in a room that fits 50 people as opposed to a room that fits 500 people.
Right. Not the room that Howie Mandel is going to be in,
Right. Howie Mandel's in a different room at the casino.
Right. He's at the Grand Ballroom. We're in the ball pit room.
Yeah.
For Wid.
But so the guy who, who's the host, he's the guy who runs the comedy club, whatever. I'm sure if I asked Jerry for stories about him, Jerry also did not show up. All he did was text me and say, interesting. Right.
One word answer, Jerry is.
Yeah. And April abandoned us as well because my kid's afraid of the dark.
Right.
And then, again, not to bury him, she's afraid of the dark as well.
Does he have a problem with ghosts and injury to the eye, too?
I don't know about that.
Right, okay. I was just going down the list. But
So it was just Todd and myself. We went there. So, okay, so there's the host, the main guy. Then there's this dude, John Kensel, who's like Wid's comedy partner.
Doesn't he do the podcast with them or something?
They do the podcast, right? Mm-hmm. And I don't think Wid or John are going to listen to this podcast.
Probably not.
But their podcast stinks.
Oh, okay.
It's just like it's a video podcast. I'm pretty sure it used to be on just Facebook, as any over 60-year-old man's podcast would be.
Right.
But it's on YouTube currently. And you know what? I should look it up right now while we're talking. But it was very interesting. And again, I hate to cast dispersions, and I don't want you to think that I did not have a good time, because I had a great time. Like, anytime I leave the house, it's a good time, right? But let me look up John Kensel.
But I will
and we keep saying Wid like we're on a first-name basis with him, or a last-name basis.
Listen, when he walked up to the stage, he came by me personally.
Yeah, that's true.
But
I'm just trying to see here.
I will say the guy who runs the club and does stuff, the guy who had terrible allergies, so had to keep wiping his nose.
Yes.
I will say he was dog shit. So bad crowd work. And I understand he's not the comedian, he's the host. But it was very like Pat, like, oh, everybody in the front row he talked to. Like, if you call the front row, the front tables. And it was like, you're not even interesting doing the front. You know what I mean? It was just, And then, but as you go on, you found the podcast?
Yeah, so it's called Cancel Culture.
That's a good name, though.
We've talked about this before. It's like a play on cancel culture,
Right.
Him and Wid do the podcast. Now, see, I'm upset that Jerry didn't come now. Podcast, puns, puppets, props, more puns, more puppets, with a tad of props and some more podcast.
Right.
Now, I will say they just brought the podcast back this month after an 8-month hiatus.
Right.
I feel safe to say that we probably do better numbers than they do.
Well, how do you track?
Well, I can look at the number of views that their YouTube videos get.
There you go. That is.
And if I cross-reference it with the number of subscribers they have versus the number of views they get per video,
right?
I'll say my Marvel Puzzle Quest pack unopening videos do better than their podcasts.
Oh. So our ad rate would be higher than theirs.
Yes, if we were requesting an ad rate from Blue Chew, let's say.
Right.
So one of their best viewed podcasts was them talking about the Unknown Comic.
Okay.
And the Unknown Comic is like very heavily featured in the graphic for it,
Right. I hope he's on that episode.
Todd, I'm afraid I have bad news.
What? He's in the bag?
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's actually funny that we stumbled upon this, because this reminds me of something else I want to talk about too. I'm going to leave that up so I don't get rid of it. But that episode that they did about the Unknown Comic almost is topping out at 200 views.
Wow.
But they're both very hacky comedians. Kensel especially, I know Jackie Jokeman can get away with telling other people's jokes, like as a club comedian sort of thing, right, and calls himself like a joke curator, if you will. But I think John Kensel fancies himself like an actual working stand-up comedian. And he was certainly not telling other people's jokes, but he was definitely just like rewording a lot of other people's premises.
Yeah, and flubbing the punchlines. There was times, I mean, I don't have one in front of me, where he'd be like, blah, 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 and he'd put the joke before, and he was like, stop, and he'd go back, and I was like, ooh, he was not very good as far as I was concerned.
Now, Wid, on the other hand, Wid is fascinating because of all the junk that he has. I would watch a reality show of how Wid travels to and from shows.
Right, with just giant, containers of junk.
Yes.
And you wonder how much he leaves behind, like because he was doing bits and he like had a globe and then the globe like broke. It's like, does he get another globe or does he put the broken globe back in the totes?
And he did another bit where he had a bunch of like foam fingers, you know?
Yeah, and one was on the roof there.
One was on the top of the little banner, and I don't think whether he got it or not, you know, is another story. But then we have you have some observations about Wid, and I'll just get my one out of the way. So, again, this is a comedy club. As Todd mentioned, it was a comedy closet more than anything else.
Right.
And they had a stage, and to get up on the stage, there was ass step, right?
On each side, I think.
On each side, there was ass step. It wasn't a very big stage, but it was a step to get up on the stage. Wid's got all of his shit all over the place in front of the stage and the side of the stage, and he's got old man manic energy as he's going for stuff. And he's not using that step.
Mm-hmm.
He's just stepping off that stage. And there was no less than 10 times where I'm like, he's going to eat shit, fall over, and we're going to see an old man die for $25.
Right. And you're like, Todd, do you really want to see the Wid's last show? I go, it would be legendary. But that's the exact quote you use. We're going to see Wid eat shit. Yep. That was like, oh, my God. And you were getting legitimately anxious. It was like an action adventure show. Like I was on the edge of my seat that he was going to die. Right. But I was worried for you, Joe.
I was worried for him.
I wasn't. The man's a professional, you know. I don't have much of an observation other than I think he wasn't as energetic as when we saw him the last time. When we saw him when Gerald was hosting, it seemed like he had much more manic energy. So I think he's laying off the canned energy, if you get my meaning.
The Spectrox, yes.
The Spectrox. There was that. And this time, I think because he was off the Spectrox, he was much more agreeable when we talked to him at the end.
Okay.
Because when we saw him the first time with Gerald, he stormed off looking like he needed to get paid and wouldn't talk to anybody. And this time he was actually like, hey, come over here. You know what I mean? And we ended up, he was like, I want to have a marked photo with you, Todd. And I gave it to him, and that was nice of him, even though some fucking guy horned in on my picture and I had to crop it out.
Now, I'll say this. Strangely, Wid just called that guy over as well.
I think he thought he was with us.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know. It was all very confusing.
It was. Not as confused as the guy was.
No.
Because a lot of the people in the audience and all of them that he called on to do crowd work were as drunk as shit, Joe.
No, just that one guy was everybody was drunk, but that one guy, Paul, doxing him.
Mm-hmm.
Beer sales Paul.
Small Paul?
No, he was a tall guy.
Okay, I know there's a tall Paul. That's why.
No, but he was beer sales Paul, not to be confused with beer sales Jerry, who you keep calling Gerald. But anyway.
Right, that's how.
So that guy was ossified drunk. Like, he came in carrying 4 beers, yeah. And when Wid called on him, he had 6 empty in front of him.
Yep.
And I think, like, by the time Wid got up there to start asking that, we were only in that room for an hour. So, if I do my beer math.
Right. Different than fish math. But.
Different than fish math. If I drink 2 beers in an hour, after an hour, 1's already out of my system. But if I drink 6 beers in an hour, I'm shit-faced.
I like that calculus there.
Yeah.
But I will say, and it was Kenzel, you did crack me up when he yelled out, who's the team people root for around here? And you yelled out, the Raiders. And he was like, Raiders. And then he started to do the bit. And he's like, wait a minute, that's Las Vegas. And then he was like, the Jets.
I fucked him up.
Yeah, you did. You kicked him off his game. And I was like, that's one of their 31 rivals.
But okay, so you know what? There was a bit at the end where Kensel did like a dirty puppet act, and I don't want to burn his whole act.
For 3 jokes, but go ahead.
For 3 jokes, but those were his 3 best jokes because they were like filthy absurdist jokes, right?
Right. He had a puppet that he put one arm through the sleeve of the puppet.
Real weird.
It was fucking weird, man.
That's probably why Jerry didn't come, because he knows how shitty of a puppeteer John Kensel is, and he would have attacked him.
Oh, poor Gerald.
So the other thing I wanted to mention about Wid was you had mentioned that you think he might be losing it.
He did seem a bit off because he was, and you ended up like, you were more, I wouldn't say you were a Wid defender, you were a Wid understander.
Yes.
But I was saying, because he was doing his jokes, and he did a couple of the jokes multiple times, which I don't like comedians who do that. I would never do my jokes multiple times, Joe.
Well, so it wasn't so much that he was doing the jokes multiple times, because, like, he's a shitty prop comedian, Mm-hmm. And a lot of the stuff is like, I put these two props together and I say a word. Or then I put, like, these three things together and I say a word. And he probably has all these triggers in his head where it's like, when I see this prop and this prop, I think this. But when I see this prop and I see this prop, I think this. But when I see these three props, I think this, right?
Right.
But if I see these three props together, it doesn't work when I say the joke if I don't do the two prop joke first to set it up.
Right.
And I'm using set it up very loosely.
Right.
And I wish I could remember what it was, but he brought two things up and he says, whatever, right? And it gets a laugh. And then he moves on to another thing. Then he moves on to another thing. And then he spots the third prop that goes with that first joke. So now he has to go back and tell that first joke again to make the third prop adding into those two props work.
Okay.
And I don't think that he's losing it, but I definitely think he has let's say, he has a different way of thinking than you or I do.
I think more like him than you think, but anyway.
All right, fair enough. I'm trying to give you and I the benefit of the doubt here.
Okay. But yeah, I mean, all in all, it was a good show. I felt bad because, like I said, he tried crowd work 3 times and fell flat on his ass. But otherwise, it was Wid. It was what I wanted. I got everything. And let's just say this: I've spent more on less, yes, and I've been unhappier with what I got.
I have no problem with the $25 that I spent and the $7 drink that you bought me.
Even though the bartender was slow as ass, boy.
Yeah. Well, so another thing that I want to say is I think, which just goes to show you who we are. This is like this is gonna be the comedy podcast today.
Okay.
Because we didn't eat any food there. We went to the diner beforehand with Josh, friend of the show, Josh.
Right, but we did find out that I eat my peanut sticks like corn on the cob. But anyway, go ahead.
Yes, I thought you were gonna keep that to yourself, but you just outed yourself. My secret shame.
Right.
So, outside of the couple that runs the Houdini Museum,
mm-hmm,
I think, like, them and us were the only ones that were familiar with the Legendary Wid.
Right. I feel everybody else was
there because it was comedy at the casino.
That, or they were comped.
Or they could have been comped, sure.
Right. They're high rollers.
Now, I also feel bad because I went, obviously because Wid is a Facebook guy, and, because I looked up Wid on Facebook and I looked up the Comedy Club on Facebook, I get all the Comedy Club push things. And I look at their lineup, and listen, they're not getting like A-list comedians in the conference room off of the lobby from the hotel next to the casino in Wilkes-Barre, right?
Right.
But every post that they had was people bitching that they have the same comedians all the time.
Right.
And they don't. Outside of the host and one other person, I looked at their entire schedule since January, and there was like one repeat. Like, outside of the host, one other person who I assume is like a regular, maybe like lives in the area or whatever. But
right,
even that person was only on like every 4th flyer.
Well, that's people just bitching.
That's just people bitching. I felt so bad. Like, the guy's trying to do something, and it's tough to get people back out and into things and whatever, right?
Right.
And I also want to mention all the comedians stayed away from current politics.
What?
Current politics.
You mean electric politics? Current? See, that's a Wid joke right there.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Al Gore took a few stray shots, is all I'm saying.
Yeah, that one took me back a little bit. I was like, and didn't he insinuate Al Gore was dead? Yes, no?
Oh.
What?
That I don't recall.
Oh, okay. I remember him saying like it with Al, and he was kind of like saying Al Gore was dead. And I remember leaning over to you, and I don't know if you were laughing too hard at another joke. And I was like, isn't Al Gore still alive?
Like I said, they seem like a very bunch of confused older gentlemen. I'm sorry, I'm muting myself. I'm schnotting. You had mentioned that Adam had the 3-hour COVID, and I definitely got sick mowing the lawn Monday.
Oh, yep.
I definitely took a face full of lawn clippings.
Oh God!
And because we bag it so it's not all over the yard and everything, And as I'm like emptying one of the bags, there was like a blockage in the thing. And as I moved I took the bag off and I saw the blockage, so I moved the blockage, and I just got a huge thing of lawn clippings right in my face. And I'm just like, oh, that's not going to do well. So I've just been sneezing and snotting all day. So a couple times there I was muted and
no problem. I thought my Skype was giving out. You got tailored with grass.
Yeah. So what else is okay, so then I have comedy this weekend as well. I'm going to the great Rochester, New York, leaving bright and early for the DabbleCon 2. Okay,
so you're using comedy in quotations. Got it.
No, listen, there's going to be podcast recordings. It's going to be Tukey potato soup. It's going to be the Uncle Rico show, which I might make myself scarce for. And then who are these podcasts? And then the Dabby Awards. And I'll probably be leaving for the Dabbler dance party. But we got a plug. Longbox Heroes got a plug on potato soup this week.
Oh, good.
Cardiff is very friendly to me, even though he banned me from DabbleCon 2.
What are you going in disguise?
Well, so that's what I was thinking. He had suggested that I should wear a fake mustache.
Mm-hmm.
I was thinking that I would wear the paper bag on my head like the Unknown Comic.
Ah, see how it comes around?
But I think that would be like too much. But I think because they're doing a bit at it where, because like everybody there, like I know a couple people from the thing that we went to back in March. But I'm not a coward and I use my real name. Mm-hmm. And I get why people are cowards and don't use their real names, especially with the target of some of the stuff that they talk about on these shows, right?
Right.
Like, I know what Tukey and Rocco look like. I'll be able to figure out who Obnoxious John is. I know who Cardiff is and, like, a lot of the other people. But then it's, like, the fans and stuff that, like, where I am. Like, I know who JT is, but I don't know who Flimsy Greenberg is.
You're just saying a lot of words
right.
now, aren't you?
So what they're doing is they're doing name tags for everyone.
Mm-hmm.
So like you put your super chat name or whatever it is on your name tag. So like, oh, I don't know you're Bill Smith, but I know that you're, Dang Lizard, right?
Okay.
So because my current online name is not Joe Sposto, if I just have not Joe Sposto on my thing, well, no, it's not Joe Sposto. I'm not Joe Sposto, who's banned. But it's, that's going to be my cute little bit that I was going to do. But anyway, I'm excited. It's going to be a long day. We have to leave super early because the thing starts at like noon in Rochester, which is a hike from here.
Who's we? You have a mouse in your pocket?
I do. April's coming with me. She's going to be the one of less than 10 people that are there that have no clue what's going on.
Poor April.
Listen, she's like, oh, it's a day out. She went to the one in March with me. Where with the Dabbleverse stuff, on a scale of 1 to 10, what we went to in March was like a 5.5, 6.
Mm-hmm.
What we're going to on Saturday is going to be like an 11 plus.
I'll say this. The fact now that I see this, and April is going to DabbleCon,
yes.
but didn't go to Widapalooza.
Yes.
I don't know. She might be on some sort of probation with me. If I didn't like her so much, I'm like, oh my! Isn't it going to be dark when she's at DabbleCon?
Yes, it is.
Is Asa going with you?
No, we actually have someone who will be able to watch him.
Oh, see, that's what you should have set up. You should have got. We should have got somebody to watch DJ's dog and Asa.
Asa could have watched the dog.
There we go. And the dog would protect him from the dark. It would all have worked.
Yes. So last but not least, unless you had anything else to cover with all this nonsense.
Dear God, no, I was hoping for a short show, but go ahead.
All right. Last but not least, I'm going to mention on the main show, but I'm going to mention it here. The Patreon thing. Right?
Oh, yeah, I see a lot of people talking about that.
Okay. If you are currently a Patreon person, this is not going to affect you. I think, right? Because the way that it reads is that starting on November 1st, if you sign up new for the Patreon through the Patreon app on your Apple device, Apple takes 30%. From what it reads right now, if you're an existing person, Apple can't touch what you're already paying to us because you're already grandfathered in.
Okay.
But that's 3 months from now. That could change. I will say if you are using and accessing our Patreon content, and literally anyone's Patreon content through the app on your supported Apple device, I'd maybe not use it anymore, right?
Right.
But it's November 1st, new subscribers to the Patreon using the Patreon app on an Apple-supported device. They're going to take 30%. Now, we're not going to charge extra for it. We're just going to make less money if you sign up for the Patreon, which is fine. I'd rather have you as a Patreon than charge you more money because Apple sucks. Right.
Now, we wouldn't be able to, not that I care because I get what you're saying. I'm fine with it. That we wouldn't be able to, you just have to raise prices across the board because you couldn't go, we're just raising it on Apple users, right?
You can. Patreon is giving you the option to say, come November 1st, you are going to make the person signing up through the Patreon app on an Apple-supported device pay those fees.
I'm not saying I was just curious how it all worked, that's all.
And I made the executive decision to say, no, fuck it.
Right.
We'll eat the fees if they're going to sign up through it, but I'm telling you 3 months in advance, don't. New subscriber, if you're listening to this maybe early, you're probably already a subscriber. So like I said, right now, it should not affect you. It's only new people signing up after November 1st.
I think
people just see, people just saw the headline and didn't read the whole article.
Right. I think we should raise prices across the board. I think from the $1 members should go up to $1 and a penny. Mm-hmm. And then the $5 members should get 5 times that. So it should be $5 and a nickel. That's what we're going to raise if we ever do. That's our price raise. Inflation, Joe.
That even feels like too much work.
It does. It is. Because it's not like we're making millions of dollars off of this. So whatever,
But that's the thing. This is not the first time that Apple has done something like this, and it's not the last time that Apple's going to do something like this. There was a period of time where I think whatever the game company that does Fortnite is, right, tried to circumvent the fees that Apple was doing. Mm-hmm. So Apple just took Fortnite off their platforms altogether, and people freaked out. And it ended up being a thing. It's like, hey, I'm an Apple user. Where'd my Fortnite go? And Apple is like, I don't know, ask Rockstar Games. And Rockstar Games is like, we were trying to not have Apple rip you off anymore. And I think it got to a point where Apple saw the loss of revenue that they were getting. Again, Apple makes a lot of money, but Fortnite makes a lot of money.
Right. Listen, Apple's like, well, we could make, with the fee, we would be making, 30% of X amount of money. With them not on there, we're making 0% of no money.
Well, right. No, it's either 30% of X, right, or 30% of nothing. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
100% is 0 if they wanted, they could take.
Right. At that point, they could take as much as they want because it's not there. But yeah.
Exactly.
So again, it's not as big of a deal as it sounds. It sucks. Apple sucks, but I'm sorry you had to find out this way.
Yeah. I think the LB heroes will rise up, Joe, and do what they did for Fortnite.
Okay.
So I doubt that, but no, it's stinky. It is stinky.
Yeah. All right. Well, everyone, thank you very much for listening. This was Longbox Heroes 508. Yeah. Thanks for your support. Thanks for listening, and we'll see y'all here next week.
You're listening to the soon-to-be-named network, the Lamborghini of podcast networks.